Hey guys, welcome back. Today's viewer question is from Stan Sacha, and he suspects he has a parasitic draw on his 2004 Grand Marquis. And he wants to know how to do a parasitic draw test and what is a known good parasitic draw value for our Panther cars. So all that means is when the car is shut off, parked, and just sitting there doing nothing, something is draining electricity out of the battery when nothing should be happening. And I'm sure we've all experienced an old car that had some kind of bad switch and the dome light stayed on and eventually killed the battery. So that's all a parasitic draw means. So I'm sure we all have our different methods for tracking down parasitic draw. So today I'm just going to show the 3 methods that I'm comfortable with. And and our cars, as old as they are, they do have a little bit of technology in them. So the first thing you got to do is you've got to prepare the car to go to sleep. And what I mean by that is some of the computers and modules in the car will stay awake for a certain amount of time before they shut off and go dormant. And if you start taking measurement readings when those modules are awake, it will provide erroneous measurement readings, and that'll throw you off. So the first thing you got to do is prepare the car to go to sleep. So what you got to do is open all 4 doors and the trunk and the hood. And you've got to take a small flat blade screwdriver and pin the latches closed on all the doors and the hood, on all the doors in the trunk, so that will tell the computer all the doors are closed, so it's okay to go to sleep. And if you've got a Panther that's got a hood light, you're going to need to close the switch so it thinks even the hood is closed. And here's another optional tip. For my car, depending if you need to roll the car back and forth, it might be a good idea to leave it in neutral and then turn the key off. Because if you've got to move the car, if you've got to roll the car forward, you would have to turn the ignition to the run position to get it out of park. And if you turn the key, that's going to wake up the modules, and then you'll have to wait another hour for the modules to go to sleep. So once you get the doors open and pinned closed, you're going to have to come over and make get your connection started with the battery here, and I'll show that to you in just a second. So once you get the car prepared to go to sleep, you're going to have to wait for 1 hour, 60 minutes for all of these modules to go to sleep. So it's a little time consuming to get these modules to go to sleep. So for that hour you're waiting for the modules to go to sleep, it might be a good idea to get your owner's manual out and familiarize yourself with your fuse box. And so what I like to do is I like to print off the pages that show the inside fuse box, the underhood fuse box, and it also might be a good idea to take a photograph of your fuse boxes with your cell phone, so after you pull all these fuses it'll be easier to put them all back. And there's the underhood one. Okay. So because I don't have editing software, all my videos are filmed in one take. So what I've done is I've already put this car to sleep, I've already prepared it, and I've already started making my connections. So let me show you what you got to do. So the first connection you're going to have to make is, you can see that my negative battery cable is removed from the negative post of the battery. So you've got to remove that negative battery cable, and you can see that I've got it tied up with a bungee cord just to hold it in place. And the next thing you'll see is you'll see this jumper wire right here, and before I came out here I made this just for this video, and all this is a piece of 12 gauge speaker wire, and I've doubled it up and then I've crimped it onto these alligator clips. And you want to go heavy gauge wire on this kind of test, something that's going to carry at least 10 amps of current. So after you get the negative battery cable disconnected, you're going to reconnect it with this jumper wire. So the car can go to sleep for that hour. So let's just pretend that I just did that and then an hour has passed. So now I'm ready to make my connections and start my testing. So the first connection you're going to make is you're going to take the negative lead of your multimeter here and you're going to put it on the negative post of the battery. And then you're going to take your positive and you're going to stick it in here like that. Okay, now we're ready to plug in my wires, and let's go. There's my negative, and there's my positive. And let's prepare my meter here. So we're going to be using DC amps, so make sure you switch it to DC amps. And then of course let's plug in the negative cable. And the positive cable. Okay, so you can see that we're already getting a fluctuating reading, and that's because our meter right now is connected in parallel because this jumper wire is connected. And in order to read current, we've got to put the meter in series. So now what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect this jumper wire. So pay attention to the meter when I disconnect this. Okay, I'm going to set the jumper wire right over here. Now you can already see the meter, we've got a reading and it's fluctuating, it's going up and down. Now this meter has a very useful min-max function. So right now I'm going to put it in maximum, and every time it beeps it's going to indicate a change. And right now it's at 34 milliamp. And if I push it again, that'll be the minimum reading. So right now all of the current, all of the electricity that's flowing through the car's electrical system is going through this meter. And it just went up to 35. So this is our this is a known good parasitic draw. Maximum is 35, minimum is 18, and if I go back to live, we can see it fluctuate. See it bouncing from 18, 19, 21, and whatnot. And the reason why it's fluctuating is because our cars have this blinking red light on the dash, and that's the PATS, the Passive Anti-Theft Security System. So every time that little LED blinks, it sends a fluctuating signal to your meter. So I'm going to say the average parasitic draw of a known good reading is somewhere between 18 and 35 milliamps. Okay, so now that we've got our meter in circuit, let's have a little fun here and let's turn on some electricity. So let's plug in my dash cam here, and maybe you can hear this thing beep when I plug it in. I'm going to plug in my dash cam. And I'm going to plug it in here to this power point. Oh, I didn't have the min-max feature on. Okay, so now you can see the meter is jumping all the way to 230, 240, and it's going up and down. See, it's at 240, 243, and the minimum is 220. And if I turn it back to live, it's somewhere around 200, 230, 220. Now, so that's how much electricity this little dash cam is draining. Now when it comes, now you're ready to start pulling fuses. So it just so happens that the fuse that I've got these dash cam plugged into is the power point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this fuse number 2, a 20 ampere. Now watch what happens to the reading. I'll put it on min-max. So right now the minimum is 216. Now watch what happens when I pull the fuse. See? Now it went all the way back down to 18 milliamp. And if I put it back in live, you can see it's switching normally back to the 18 to 35. So so that's how that works. And now let me put this fuse back in, and we'll see it. Well, I'll put it on the max feature. So now I'm going to put the fuse back in, and let's see what happens. Now you can see it's jumping up to 183, 227, 245, 251, all the way back up, because now the dash cam is powered up. Alright, so let me disconnect this dash cam. Okay, so I've disconnected the dash cam. So this is the first way. This is the old-fashioned, old-school way. Now there's an easier way if you've got a different kind of meter. Now this is a very somewhat specialized meter. This is called a non-contact amperage clamp, or amp clamp. And it works just like this meter, but there's no wires. You just clamp on with this thing right here, and it'll read the small magnetic field that is generated when you push current through a wire. So let me show you how this works. So I've got to set it for DC amps. Now all I'm going to do, oh wait. And then 0. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going, oh wait, I better 0 this again. Okay, so now I'm going to clamp it on the positive wire. I've got it clamped on the positive cable of the battery. Now let's see how accurate this is to my fluke. Let me reset this. DC 0. Okay, here we go. So we can see, hopefully we can see both of these readings are very similar. I've got, you know, or let me put on the max. Yeah, so they are similar. So I've got 34 milliamps on the fluke, and I've got 36 on the clamp. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Now the problem with these amp clamps is these are very expensive, or they can be. Before I came out here, I checked to see how much this would cost with the Fluke brand, and it was $360. And I bought this today. This was just delivered today for $60. Okay, so now let's go in. I want to show you another method, but we've got to connect our jumper wire before we disconnect our meter. Oh wait. Okay, so let me show you another example. And so right now the modules in the car are still sleeping. Now let's wake them up. I'm going to push my unlock button on my key fob, and that's going to cycle the power door lock on the driver door, and it's also going to turn on the dome light. Now, well, let's see what happens. Okay, I saw it jump up to 3.8 amps, and right now we have a current reading of 1.25, so just over 1 amp. So make a mental note of that. Let's call it 1.3 amps. And if I lock the car, the dome light shut off, and now we can see it dropping. Now it's going to go back to sleep. So now when I unlocked it, I woke up the lighting control module. So right now the lighting control module is drawing 183 milliamps, and it's going to be another hour before it goes to sleep. Now let me go turn on the dome light manually. Okay, so I just turned on the dome light. And now we can see that we're reading 1.3 amps, just about. So now let's connect our jumper wire back. And now I'm going to remove my meter, and we're going to head inside the car. Okay, so this is going to be the third method on how to check for parasitic draw. And what we're going to do is we're going to measure the voltage drop across a fuse, and we're going to use a chart to convert that into an amperage reading. So I'm going to measure the fuse that is on the dome light circuit, and remember that was 1.3 amps before. So I've got to turn my meter to millivolts. I've got to move this lead over here, and let's make sure my leads are good. Let's make sure it's zeros. What's going on? Okay, for some reason it doesn't want a zero. It's hanging at 2 millivolts. Let's see what happens when I stick it in the fuse. So right now I'm just going to back probe those 2 pins on the fuse for the dome light circuit. Here we go. So I've got a reading, and my reading is 7.5 millivolts. And you can see when I pull it away, it drops. So that means I had a good connection. So now we need to convert that with this little chart here. And so I was on a blue 15 amp fuse, and we're going to come over to, see, this is a blue 15 amp fuse, and we were at 7.5 millivolt. So that comes out to 1.6 amps. So it's a little bit off, but it's in the ballpark. When I tested at the battery, it was 1.3 amps, and this chart says 1.6 amps. Now, the reason why you'd want to do this is because this is considered a non-intrusive test, and by checking the fuses for current draw with them plugged in, you don't run a risk of pulling them out and then putting them back in and turning the module back on. So the fourth method is to use an infrared camera that can read heat, like FLIR, forward-looking infrared. And this is just a basic pyrometer. These things are only $20. And I just looked online, and the cheapest infrared camera is $220. And all that does is when you suspect a parasitic draw, a fuse is going to get warm. It's going to get hot. And so what you'll do is you'll just scan your fuse box, and whichever one is hotter than the others, that's the one that's on. So it's this is really a time saver, but of course $220 for an infrared camera is out of our budgets. Okay, so hopefully I didn't confuse you more than you already were. That's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.